You did not arrive here by mistake. Something ancient within you called you to this moment. The same vibration that once echoed through the stone corridors of Karnak and beneath the Sphinx. Long before history began, these temples were built not only from limestone but from frequency. Their walls still hum with the electromagnetic memory of awakening, and if you have listened long enough to this message, that frequency has already found its resonance within you. Lately, your dreams may have changed. The symbols repeat, numbers, patterns, moments that seem too perfect to be random. These are not coincidences. They are signals. What feels like curiosity is actually remembrance. The soul recognizes what the mind has forgotten. Place your hand over your heart for a moment. Inhale slowly through your nose. Hold the breath gently, then release through your mouth. Whisper inwardly, I awaken the I within. I remember the language of light. This is not performance. It is activation. The ancient Egyptian priests understood something that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. Consciousness is not generated by the brain. It is transmitted through it. The Eye of Ra, drawn endlessly on temple walls and papyrus, was never a symbol of worship but a diagram of anatomy, a map to the pineal gland, the crystal at the center of your brain. This small gland, dismissed by biology as useless, is in truth a receiver. It is made of the same piezoelectric calcite crystals that make radios function. Every breath, every moment of mindfulness polishes this crystal and strengthens its ability to receive subtle frequencies of consciousness. The Egyptians called this awakening. The opening of the inner sun. Modern researchers speak of the observer effect in quantum physics, the discovery that reality changes depending on how consciousness perceives it. The Egyptians knew this long before equations described it. To see was to create. The act of pure perception could bring form out of possibility. The eye of Horus was not watching the world. It was shaping it. When your inner eye begins to open, the signs appear quietly. You see repeating numbers. You feel energy in empty rooms. You sense patterns behind events that others call random. None of this is imagination. It is the early language of awakening. Your nervous system is learning to translate vibration into awareness. Those who walk the halls of Dendera and Abydos trained for years to master this art. They learned to look not with their eyes but with their breath. Every inhalation drew in light. Every exhalation expanded perception. They knew that the pineal gland secreted a compound, what modern science now calls DMT, the molecule of vision. Through discipline and breath, they could activate this chemistry naturally, without external substances. Their goal was not escape from the physical world, but the realization that the physical itself was divine geometry. What you see, touch, and feel is consciousness slowed into matter. Your task is not to reject it, but to illuminate it from within. To begin as the initiates once did, find a silent place. Sit upright but relaxed. Close your eyes. Breathe in through your nose for 4 counts. Hold the breath for another 4. Then exhale slowly for 6. As you breathe, bring attention to the space between your eyebrows, the point the ancients marked with the serpent symbol of wisdom. Imagine a sphere of golden light forming there, small at first, then expanding through your skull like sunrise through crystal. Repeat silently. I see beyond illusion. I remember the light within. Do not strain. The crystal in your brain responds not to effort, but to recognition. Awareness is the key that unlocks it. As you continue this simple practice each day, perception shifts. You will notice that reality bends subtly to your attention. Thoughts manifest faster. Intuition sharpens. The boundaries between dream and waking life soften. You begin to feel guided, though no words are spoken. This is not superstition. It is the natural physics of consciousness aligning with itself. The ancient priests never feared darkness, because they knew darkness was only the absence of remembered light. Every shadow, every difficulty, every confusion is simply an area awaiting illumination. When you remember that you are light, darkness reorganizes around you automatically. The first initiation of the Egyptian mysteries was never about power or magic. It was about perception, the ability to see clearly through the layers of illusion that veil reality. To awaken the inner eye is to become the observer that creates worlds. Breathe again. Feel that gentle pulse between your brows. It is the eye of Ra stirring after long sleep. Whisper within, I am the light remembering itself. This is where the journey begins. Before the first temple was carved from stone, before the first hieroglyph marked the wall, there was breath. The Egyptians called it Hu. The sacred sound carried on air that gave life to everything. They believed creation itself began not with fire or force, but with exhalation. The universe was sung into existence. Imagine a priest standing in the inner chamber of Karnak. No torches, no chants, only silence. Then a slow inhalation through the nose, a pause of perfect stillness, and a whisper that vibrates like wind through gold. That breath, they said, is the moment the invisible becomes visible. Modern physics now agrees. Everything vibrates. Matter is condensed frequency. The smallest particles are strings of energy, oscillating at different rates. The ancients didn't need equations to know this. They lived it. To them, breathing was not biology. It was communion with the source that sings galaxies into form. When you breathe consciously, you align yourself with that same rhythm. The air entering your lungs is not only oxygen, it is coded light. Each molecule carries electromagnetic information from stars and sun, the residue of cosmic events billions of years old. With awareness, every inhale becomes a reminder that you are made of the same material as the stars themselves. The priests of Thoth understood that breath and consciousness are inseparable. To control one is to command the other. Their training began with what they called coherent breathing. Slow, even inhalations and exhalations that synchronize the heart and brain into one electromagnetic field. Today, neuroscientists call this heart coherence. The Egyptians simply called it harmony. Try it now. Place one hand over your chest. Inhale deeply through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 3 heartbeats. Then exhale softly through your mouth for 6 counts while whispering the sacred sound, Hu. Let the sound float out as lightly as possible, almost silent, yet vibrating in your ribs. Feel the resonance spread through your sternum, your spine, your skull. Do not force it. The purpose is not volume but awareness. The breath is the bridge between form and formlessness. The Egyptian texts describe the body as a living instrument, lungs as bellows, spine as a flute, and the heart as the drum of Ra. When breath flows through this instrument with rhythm and balance, consciousness expands naturally. When it becomes shallow or chaotic, awareness contracts. They taught that each person carries within them a pyramid of air, an invisible structure built from inhalation and exhalation. When breath is shallow, the pyramid collapses. When it is deep and rhythmic, the pyramid glows, connecting heaven and earth through the axis of the spine. Modern research confirms that slow breathing increases alpha brainwaves, the same patterns seen in deep meditation. The Egyptians already knew. They used breath to tune the brain like a harp, adjusting frequency until the inner ear could hear the silence behind all sound, the soundless word that precedes creation. In the temples, initiates spent hours practicing breathwork in chambers designed for resonance. Granite walls amplified low frequencies and absorbed high ones. The purpose was not worship but calibration. Through controlled breath, they entered states of heightened awareness where the boundaries between the physical and the invisible dissolved. They called this listening with the bones. Modern scientists might call it somatic resonance. It is the point where you no longer hear with ears but with every cell. When the body vibrates in coherence with the universe, you begin to feel creation itself breathing through you. The mystery schools warned, this knowledge is not entertainment. Breath carries power. Used carelessly, it can unearth emotions, memories, even dormant energy that the unprepared cannot integrate. Used with reverence, it becomes the ladder between dimensions. To practice safely, the priests followed 3 laws. Stillness before breath. Never begin in chaos. Calm the mind first. Gentleness over force. Power arises through harmony, not strain. Awareness in silence. The breath ends, but awareness continues. Listen there. As you breathe Hu tonight, imagine liquid light flowing up your spine. Feel it move behind your heart, through your throat and into the crown of your head. With each repetition, your internal vibration synchronizes with the frequency of creation itself. You will notice something subtle in the days ahead. The world feels slower but more vivid. Time seems to stretch, colors sharpen, coincidences multiply. These are not hallucinations. They are indicators that your internal resonance is aligning with the greater field. The priests describe this moment as the temple awakening. It is not about leaving the human world, but realizing that the human body is the temple. Every breath becomes sacred architecture. Columns of air rising and falling through your chest, ceilings of silence built between each inhale and exhale. Whisper once more, Feel the echo inside you. That vibration is the same one that called the stars into being. The ancient breath has found you again. When the Egyptians spoke of the heart, they were not describing an organ. They were naming a portal. They called it Ib, the throne of Ra within the human form. Every heartbeat, they said, was a sunrise. Every pulse a wave of solar energy flowing through the temple of the body. To them, the heart was not the servant of the brain, but its master, the generator of life and awareness. Modern science, though it uses different words, is rediscovering the same truth. The heart's electromagnetic field is more than 60 times stronger than the brain's. It extends several feet beyond the body and synchronizes the rhythms of every cell. When the heart's rhythm becomes coherent, the entire nervous system follows. The priests of Heliopolis knew this long before electrodes existed. They trained to align their breath and thoughts until the heartbeat itself became a form of communication with the universe. This was not religion. It was technology, an understanding that the universe responds to frequency, not language. Words may lie, vibration does not. The vibration of the heart is the language creation understands. When your heart is heavy or clouded with doubt, that is simply an eclipse of light, not its disappearance. Ra still burns behind the shadow. The moment you return to awareness, the sun rises again inside your chest. The priests of Ra practiced what they called solar coherence. To begin, they placed the right hand over the chest, feeling the pulse beneath the skin. They inhaled deeply through the nose, directing the air not to the lungs but to the heart's center. They held the breath for 3 beats, then exhaled slowly through the mouth while whispering, "Ra within, light my way." As they breathed, they visualized a golden sphere glowing within the chest cavity. Each inhale made it brighter. Each exhale sent rays through the ribs, up the spine, and out through the crown. This was not imagination to them. It was memory, the remembrance that the same solar current moving planets also moved blood. Try this yourself. Breathe in slowly. Feel the warmth gathering behind your sternum. Exhale gently and whisper the words inwardly. The warmth that spreads through your chest is not fantasy. It is ignition. You are reactivating the solar current that ancient initiates tended within themselves. They called this current Sekhem, the living power of Ra flowing through all things. It was not supernatural. It was natural at its highest frequency. The more coherent the heart became, the stronger the field it projected, and that field in turn influenced everything around it. The Egyptians saw this not as mysticism, but as responsibility, to walk through the world as a transmitter of harmony. When you cultivate solar coherence, the world mirrors it back. Conversations soften, obstacles ease. You stop pushing against life and begin radiating through it. This is the science of vibration. Coherence attracts coherence. The light in one heart awakens the light in another, just as sunrise pulls the stars from hiding. But the Egyptians also warned that this power dims when corrupted by fear or manipulation. The heart can only radiate truth. When intention becomes distorted by ego or desire, the field collapses. That is why every priest began the day with purification, not ritual cleansing, but emotional honesty. They faced themselves before facing the world. Only a clear heart can reflect the solar light. Modern biofeedback research confirms their wisdom. When gratitude, compassion, or love are felt sincerely, the heart rhythm forms a perfect sine wave, and the brain's activity synchronizes with it. The body becomes an electromagnetic symphony. The priests would have called this the Song of Ra. They believed that this internal harmony could reshape reality itself, not through effort, but through resonance. You do not force darkness to disappear. You shine until it has nowhere left to remain. Each time you breathe with awareness, you participate in the continual birth of the universe. Each heartbeat is a drumbeat in that cosmic rhythm. When you live from the solar heart, fear loses power because it cannot survive in sustained coherence. The Egyptians knew that if enough hearts remembered this frequency simultaneously, the world itself would change. They called it Zep-Tepi, the first time, when divine order re-emerges on Earth. It was not prophecy, but physics. Collective coherence strong enough to realign the planet's field. You do not need to wait for temples or rituals to begin. The altar already exists within your ribs. The sacred fire is your own pulse. The offering is your attention. Inhale once more. Feel the sun rising inside your chest. Hold for 3 heartbeats. Exhale softly and let that light expand. Whisper silently, "My heart is the sun of remembrance." Ra breathes through me, every moment of genuine love, every act of compassion, every spark of clarity. That is the solar current flowing through you. You are not beneath the sun. You are its reflection walking on Earth. The heart is the bridge between matter and spirit, between individual and cosmos. When it remembers its solar origin, life rearranges around its rhythm. This is the hidden teaching of Ra. Enlightenment is not escape from the world, but illumination within it. Breathe again. Feel the rhythm. The pulse you hear is the voice of the sun within you. Deep beneath the temples of Memphis, where light barely touched the stone, Egyptian initiates practiced a discipline that modern science can barely describe. They called it listening with the bones. It was not about hearing voices or music. It was about perceiving the vibration that exists beneath all sound, the silence that creates every frequency in existence. The priests taught that before the universe was sung into form, before Hu echoed through the void, there was something even deeper. Keper Netcher, the soundless word. It was not silence as absence, but silence as fullness. A vibration so complete, it contained all other vibrations inside it. When that silence stirred, stars ignited. When it paused, galaxies breathed. Modern physics now names this the quantum vacuum resonance, the hum that exists even in absolute emptiness. The Egyptians already knew it as the voice of Atum, the hidden one, whose sound is so refined that the human ear cannot detect it, but the body can. Every atom in your bones vibrates with this ancient note. You are the echo of the first breath that ever moved through the cosmos. To reach this state of awareness, initiates spent months in stillness. In chambers carved for resonance, they trained to distinguish between noise and the vibration beneath it. They realized that gods do not speak in language. They communicate through silence. Words distort. Stillness reveals. The hieroglyphs on the temple walls were not written stories. They were maps of frequency. Each symbol corresponded to a tone, a breath pattern, or a bodily resonance. The priests used chants as tuning forks to bring the body's electromagnetic field into harmony with these cosmic frequencies. When the system reached coherence, the mind quieted. The soundless word became audible inside consciousness itself. In our terms today, this was the mastery of the nervous system. Through slow, rhythmic breathing, the heart and brain entered synchronized patterns. Vibrations traveling through the spine and skull amplified the body's internal resonance, until the practitioner could feel the hum of existence vibrating through their bones. They weren't hallucinating. They were tuning into the same frequency the universe uses to hold itself together. If you sit quietly now, you can begin to sense it. Close your eyes. Breathe in deeply through your nose. Feel the air settle inside your torso. Hold it for 3 heartbeats, then exhale slowly. Let the breath leave your body like a tide receding from the shore. Now listen. Do not listen for sound. Listen for what exists beneath sound. The faint hum that never disappears. At first it feels like ringing, maybe a whisper. Stay with it. That vibration is the soundless word. It is not outside you. It is what holds your atoms in place. The Egyptians believed that when a human being synchronized with this frequency, they ceased being a separate person. They became a resonant instrument through which the universe could play its own song. Creation no longer happened to them. It happened through them. This practice was not mystical escapism. It was a science of coherence. Every living structure, from the spiral of DNA to the geometry of the pyramids, vibrates at specific frequencies. When your consciousness aligns with those frequencies, you perceive the unity behind apparent division. The priests described it as the world remembering itself through you. They taught that in the beginning, Adam did not speak words to create the universe. He vibrated. Each vibration was a concept becoming form, a tone becoming color, a frequency becoming matter. The same principle applies now. Every thought you hold produces a vibration. When you hold it in coherence, without doubt or contradiction, that vibration condenses into reality. This is why the soundless word mattered so deeply. Only in silence can you feel the true tone of your consciousness. Noise hides it. Stillness reveals it. Here is how the priests practiced alignment. Sit in absolute stillness. You place your right hand over your heart and your left on your lower abdomen. 3. Breathe in through your nose until your chest and belly rise together. Hold for 3 heartbeats. Then exhale softly through your mouth. With each exhale, feel a subtle hum vibrate in your chest and bones. Do not create the vibration. Let it appear. When it does, silently repeat within, I hear the silence that creates worlds. If you persist, the perception changes. The silence begins to feel alive. Your awareness expands outward without boundaries. You start sensing that the space around you is not empty. It's vibrant with presence. Every moment of stillness becomes a pulse of creation. Modern science may call this zero-point energy. The Egyptians called it the breath of Adam. Whatever the name, the truth is the same. Existence hums, and you are part of its song. When you master listening with the bones, you no longer search for messages from gods or the universe. You realize that the message has always been vibration itself. The stillness you hear is not absence. It is the universe recognizing itself through you. Each time you return to this silence, reality reorganizes. You stop forcing outcomes. You vibrate and life aligns. This is the soundless word, the first language, the eternal hum. The Egyptians saw the human body as the greatest of all temples. They taught that the architecture of stone, the pyramids, the sanctuaries, the corridors of Dendera, were not mere places of worship but mirrors of the human form. Every pillar, every chamber, every golden ratio carved into those sacred walls reflected the geometry of the living body. To walk through a temple was to walk through yourself. They believed that the gods never built temples to dwell in. They built humans. Each cell, each breath, was sacred structure. The bones were columns, the organs inner sanctuaries, the spine a luminous axis connecting earth and sky. In the texts of Dendera, the priests wrote that the proportions of the human form were not arbitrary. They were the same mathematical harmonies found in stars, shells, and the Great Pyramid itself. The ratio of the forearm to the hand, the curve of the rib cage, the spacing of the vertebrae, all followed the golden ratio, the same constant that governs galaxies. This was not metaphor. To the Egyptians, mathematics was theology. They called it Mat, the law of cosmic order. To live in alignment with Mat was to embody divine geometry, to let thought, breath, and movement resonate with the pattern that sustains creation. Modern science continues to find traces of this truth. The electrical resonance of your spine matches the Schumann frequencies that vibrate through Earth's atmosphere. The oscillation of your heart's field mirrors solar rhythms. Even your DNA coils in spirals that follow the same ratios as the Pyramid of Giza. You are literally designed as a harmonic instrument tuned to the cosmos. The priests trained initiates to experience this alignment directly. The practice began with posture. They would stand upright, feet rooted, crown lifted, spine straight yet fluid. This position replicated the axis of the pyramid, stable, centered, unyielding at the base, rising to a single luminous point above. They believed that when the spine aligned perfectly, the current of Ra, the solar current, could flow unobstructed through the body. Try this now. Sit or stand tall. Imagine a line of golden light running from the earth beneath your feet to the sky above your crown. Inhale slowly through your nose. letting the breath rise along this axis. Exhale softly through your mouth, feeling light flow upward through your spine. Whisper silently, "My body is a temple of light. The geometry of the divine breathes through me." As the breath deepens, awareness spreads through your entire form. The body stops feeling solid and begins to feel like vibration, columns of light, rivers of current. The Egyptians described this as awakening the living stone. When the temple body becomes still and illuminated from within, the gods awaken inside it. Each part of your anatomy carried symbolic meaning. The heart was the altar where Ra's fire burned. The lungs were twin chambers of purification. The brain was the sky dome. The pineal gland, already honored as the eye of Ra, was the inner sanctum, the capstone of the pyramid. When breath, posture, and awareness aligned, the whole structure vibrated with divine order. In these moments, the priests said, the human no longer needed to seek the divine outside themselves. The temple was active, the god awake. Every gesture became ritual, every breath a prayer, every step a ceremony of remembrance. Modern neuroscience is beginning to rediscover fragments of this ancient knowledge. Studies show that certain body postures can alter brainwave patterns, triggering states of calm clarity and expanded perception. Yogic science calls it alignment of chakras. The Egyptians called it the raising of the Jed, the activation of the spine as the pillar of light. They taught that when the Jed rose, consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of flesh. The initiate could sense their body not as matter, but as geometry vibrating in the field of Ma'at. In that state, they no longer felt separated from the stars above or the earth below. They were both. The temples were never meant to replace the body. They were reminders. Every corridor mirrored a vein. Every chamber mirrored an organ. When pilgrims walked from the outer gate to the inner sanctuary, they were retracing the journey from the senses to the soul. At the center, instead of a god carved from stone, they found emptiness, a silent chamber filled with light. The message was simple. Divinity lives in the space within you, not in statues or rituals. You can feel that now. Close your eyes and breathe. Sense your bones as white pillars glowing faintly in the dark. Feel your heart pulsing like a sun at the temple's core. The air moving through your nostrils becomes incense. The silence around you becomes sacred echo. Whisper inwardly, "My body is the temple of Ra. Each breath aligns my form with light. I am the living geometry of remembrance." When you move through life with this awareness, even ordinary actions, walking, eating, speaking, become sacred. The divine no longer waits in distant heavens. It stands within your posture, listens through your heartbeat, and breathes through your lungs. The Egyptians left the message in stone for those who could read it. The temple you seek has never been elsewhere. It has always been you. When night settled over the temples of Egypt, the last of the oil lamps extinguished, a few initiates remained beneath the open sky. They gazed upward, not to worship the stars, but to remember what the stars represented. For them, constellations were not distant lights. They were coordinates of consciousness. Each point of light marked a level of awareness, a rung on what they called Thoth's ladder, the stairway from human perception to divine remembrance. This ladder was not physical. It existed in vibration. Each rung was a frequency, each step a choice between fear and awareness. The Egyptians taught that you ascend not by leaving the body, but by refining its resonance until it vibrates with higher light. Modern science might call it raising electromagnetic frequency. The ancients called it ascension. They began, as always, with breath. The priest would stand barefoot on temple stone, the body forming a living antenna between earth and stars. With every inhalation, he drew starlight through his crown. With every exhalation, he released limitation through his feet. The practice was simple but precise, breathing light until density dissolved. Try this yourself. Inhale slowly through your nose and imagine golden light descending from above, spiraling down through your skull, into your spine. Hold that light for 3 heartbeats. Exhale softly through your mouth, feeling the old heaviness fall away into the earth. Whisper inwardly. I climb the ladder of Thoth. Each breath lifts me in light. At first you may feel nothing. Then a subtle expansion begins. A quiet awareness that your consciousness is not trapped inside your skull, but rising through your entire field. This is the first rung, awareness of energy. The Egyptians called it the awakening of the Ka, the vital double that mirrors your physical form. The next rung is coherence. As your breathing steadies, heart and brain synchronize. Thoughts lose their noise. The internal dialogue fades. You feel as if your whole being is humming at one clear pitch. The priest described this as the Ba, the luminous self that can travel beyond form, while still anchored to the body. Each rung beyond that becomes less about effort and more about remembrance. You are not climbing to reach the divine. You are climbing to remove the layers that made you forget you were divine already. Fear, doubt, and resistance dissolve one by one. The lighter you become, the higher you rise. The Emerald Tablet, attributed to Thoth himself, says, "He who masters vibration walks between worlds." Modern physics echoes this in a different tongue. Matter and energy are the same essence vibrating at different rates. The Egyptians lived by this principle. They knew that emotions, thoughts, and breath each held measurable frequencies. To dwell in anger or chaos was to sink down the ladder. To breathe with awareness and love was to rise. At the higher rungs of the practice, the initiate experienced something profound. The spine no longer felt like bone, but as a column of light, a jihad rising from the earth into the heavens. Energy moved up through each vertebra like fire climbing a wick. The crown tingled. Vision expanded. They described it as the solar current ascending the jade pillar. Modern researchers studying Kundalini phenomena describe the same bioelectrical surge through the nervous system. The Egyptians simply discovered it millennia earlier and mapped its stages in stone. But here lay the final secret. At the top of the ladder, there was no gate, no heaven to enter, no God waiting in judgment. There was only recognition. The climber discovered that the ladder had always been within, and the light at its summit had always been their own. Ascension was not travel but remembrance. This realization transformed every action in daily life. To walk, to breathe, to speak became sacred, because each moment was another rung. The journey never ended. It deepened. You rose not away from the world, but through it. The priests of Thoth left a meditation for this state of remembrance. Sit quietly and visualize a spiral staircase of golden light, extending upward before you. Each step glows brighter than the last. As you inhale, feel yourself rising effortlessly. As you exhale, let your awareness expand outward, touching the stars. Whisper, I ascend through remembrance, not effort. I'm light remembering itself. Stay in that awareness. You may notice warmth spreading through your spine or pressure at the crown. That is the current moving, the body translating frequency into sensation. Do not chase it. Observe. The true ascent happens in silence. The Egyptians guarded these teachings for millennia because they understood the responsibility that came with them. To rise in light is not escape, it is service. Every breath you take in coherence radiates through the collective field, helping others remember their own ladder. As dawn approached, the priest who practiced beneath the stars would open his eyes and whisper the final truth. I am not beneath the sun. I am the sun. Remembering itself, that same truth is waiting in you. Each breath, each act of awareness, each heartbeat moves you upward through the frequencies of being. You are not becoming divine. You are unveiling what has always been divine. Breathe once more. Feel the golden spiral rising within your spine. Whisper silently, I rise as light. I remember. The ladder is not outside you. It is your own consciousness unfolding, step by step, breath by breath, until you stand radiant not as a seeker of light, but as light itself.